Nothing is softer or more flexible than water, yet nothing can resist it. Water is the driving force of all nature. According to statistics, world oceans cover about 3/4 of the Earth's surface. However, the fresh water constitutes a very small proportion of this enormous quantity. Only 2.7% of the total water available on the Earth is fresh water. The crisis about water resources development and management thus arises because most of the water is not available for use. The importance of water has been recognized and greater emphasis is being laid on its economic use and better management. To know more about water conservation, water management and water security, we had a conversation with Additional Secretary and Mission Director of National Water Mission, Mr.G Asok Kumar from Ministry of Jal Shakti.
Water is required for everybody, for all living beings, including plants, animals, human beings. We require water. It is one of the basic necessity, and also water is one of the major input for many industries, as well as for a very, very crucial role in agriculture. So water is very important for the economy, for the very basic living of any life on earth. Now, we had been doing, we had been conserving water for many years. So, if you look at the time of Harappa, Mohenjo-daro also, we had water conservation structures. We have historical proofs of tanks existing those times even. And we have even proofs, even coming down to the 10th century, 12th century, the famous step wells of Rajasthan and Gujarat and those areas where the kings had built wonderfully decorated step wells to store water for the people during summer times. They all existed. So water and water conservation had been a tradition in India, and we used to respect water. Somehow in the last maybe in the turn of the century probably, we had started over-exploiting the water, and that is where we found that we were running short of water. There was, if you look at it in a very dispassionate manner, we are not a water scarce country. It is a water. So it's not a. It's a water. So it's not, we are not a water deficit country. We are a water scarce country. What does it mean? It means that there is sufficient water available in the country if we properly manage it. So the key word here is the water management. I'll tell you with statistics. India gets about 1100 millimeter rainfall, much more compared to countries like Israel and all, which gets about 500-600 mm rainfall. So our per capita, our availability of rainfall in the country is on an average 1100 mm, and of course it has a spatial variation. See, you have maybe 100 to 200 mm rainfall in the western side of Rajasthan desert area, and we have 3000 to 3300 mm rainfall in Andamans and eastern parts and southern parts like Kerala and all. So there's a huge variation in availability of rainfall, and also in the temporal variation. That means the time period. We get rainfall during the monsoon season, mainly from June to November, December, where the southern states like Tamil Nadu and all get the rainfall from the retreating monsoon. So monsoon period is the one which gives rainfall to the country, and it's also especially there's a variation. Having said that, this water is actually sufficient for all our requirements. But what has happened is we have started treating water very lightly, I would say, because we were not giving respect to water and over-exploiting the water and misusing the water. If you remember, there's a very common saying in Hindi, "Do pani ki tarah beh raha hai." You are wasting something, say that you are wasting something, say pani ki tarah waste kar. That means you think that water is fundamental and it is a very cheap commodity. That's what the mindset. So because of this, and because of a certain policy interventions which happened over the years, like giving free power to farmers and all, the exploitation of water went off and the water became overexploited. If you look at the progress usage of water in India, agriculture takes about 85 to 90% of water usage in the country. This is a very big revelation to many people because we all think that पीने के पानी का ही ज़्यादा problem होता है. पीने के पानी is an issue, but the management of this water should come from the demand side, that is the irrigation demand. We use almost 85 to 90% of water in agriculture sector, and the domestic and industrial sector takes only about remaining 10 to 11%. So if you can save water in agriculture to extent of maybe even to extent of 10%, we will get almost the same water which is required for feeding the entire nation. So that much water is available if you save 10% in agriculture. So that's where the importance of better regulation of water in agriculture sector. So that's the demand side management of it. But if you look at the supply side of it, because if you look at when you look at about water security is for availability of good quality water. So there are two aspects in this. One is the quality aspect and the quantity aspect. Now let us start with the quantity aspect first. As I said, we have sufficient rainfall, and in India, about 90-95% of the water is due to rainfall. We take rain as the main source of water because we get water in some areas due to melting of snow and springs and all. But rains are the main source of water, and also the groundwater. Groundwater again is a deposit of rain water in the ground and aquifers over a time. So we are exploiting that. So basically, if you look at it, the rain is the main source of water, and we let most of the rainwater go waste without actually storing it. So storage capacity of our of water in India is very low. Now, what are the main storage areas? We have about 5,400 major dams in the country, which is stores water on the surface. We have probably lakhs of small, medium and minor irrigation tanks and small ponds and all these things. But still, a large volume of water goes off as runoff to rivers and then to the sea. So and what does it? How does it affect it? You see, because of the climate change in the last many years, last quarter of century or something, we have found that the intensity of rainfall has increased. So what used to fall in about 4 months to 5 months of time is now falling in much shorter days. So what I'm trying to say is we have the same quantity of water available, quantity of rain available, but it is falling in shorter time. And because of that, large volume of water comes in, and since we are not prepared to store so much of water, most of this water gets wasted and is lost. And after 6 months, or when the summer starts, since we have not stored much water and since we don't have much water in the underground, we face the music of having very little water for drinking, and we start tankers and all these things. So it is a cycle of floods and destruction due to lot of water during the rainy season and some monsoon, and then drought and running helter-skelter water during the summer season. To connect this is the campaign which Honorable Prime Minister has started recently on the World Water Day on March 22nd. The campaign with the name Catch the Rain Where It Falls, When It Falls. So catch the rain where it falls, when it falls, is to nudge the people to store water where it falls. So it is
how it can actually benefit the local people.
See, it benefits immensely the local people. Now, earlier, what was our system? We used to have big dams conserving water. So water which is falling in our compound, it used to go out and then it is stored somewhere else. Very big dams, Bagra, Nangal dams and the Hirakud dams, big dams we could construct and kept the water there. And then that water was brought back to us through irrigation channels for irrigation, and also many places for drinking water purposes also. Now, this campaign, the Catch the Rain campaign, is a very interesting campaign because it is actually nudging people to go for decentralized storage of water. What it means, घर का पानी घर में, खेत का पानी खेत में, गाँव का पानी गाँव में, which means that you don't let water to flow to the big dam, and get collected in a big dam. Instead of that, you start storing the water in your place. This has multiple effects. One, if you look at it, if you store the water in your own compound, in your own area, in your own village, the soil moisture increases considerably. Soil moisture is very, very important for agriculture. It makes the soil live, vibrant with organic growth. The nami, जो बोलते हैं ना, that will increase in the soil. Second, if you let the water percolate down in your own area, your water table will increase. Now, the major complaint these days is the falling of water table because of overexploitation. In many of the areas of the country, we have shifted from normal irrigation to ground irrigation. So if you look at the exploitation of groundwater, India is the largest exploit rate of groundwater. Almost 50 billion cubic meter of water is extracted from the ground, which is much more than the combined extraction of groundwater by US, China, and Mexico. So that's the volume of water we extract from the ground. But unfortunately, we don't put back or replenish the water we take. The more you draw from the groundwater, from the under aquifer below, the water table goes down. So the Catch the Rain campaign, which launched by the Honorable PM, is trying to reverse this process and try to put a part of the water to the ground so that the water table increases. So one I said the important advantage is the increase in the soil moisture, making the soil more organic, more lively, with a lot of biodiversity coming up. It also increases the vegetation. It increases the water table. Now, if you increase the water table, what are the other associate advantages? It will reduce your pumping costs. Otherwise you have to put higher power motors when the water table goes down. When the water table comes up, you require lesser power motors. Your energy requirement also would be much less. You require less electricity or less diesel to pump out the water. So this in a way affects the energy security of the country, because if you look at it, nearly 25% of the energy is actually used for pumping up the water in the country. So that is one very important aspect of it. And a very interesting side effect is the reduction in flooding. So how does flood occur? Flood occur because water which is falling in your compound and all these things, instead of going down to the earth and sinking into the earth, it comes out to the roads and goes to the low-lying areas. Low-lying area gets flooded and damages the houses. So we are looking at making, as I said, it will help in these 3 points. Now, what are the things we are doing for this? If you're talking in a very simple language, we are trying to create natural water harvesting or structures of water containers. Normally क्या होता है, when बारिश comes, you run around to take the bucket to store the water. So instead of that, the Jal Shakti Abhiyan Catch the Rain campaign launched by the Honorable Prime Minister is to make people or nudge the people to be ready with vacant or empty buckets to collect the rainwater and store it. So how can we do that? See, there are a lot of water bodies in the country. There are a lot of tanks, there are lakes, which many of them have been encroached, which they have been, many of them have been dumped with debris, and also volume has come down. So one of the first tasks which we are asking all the people to do is, all the stakeholders is doing it, is to enumerate the water bodies. What are the lakes that are available? What are the ponds that are available? What are the tanks which are available in your area? And mark it. Then mark its boundaries, because many areas would have been encroached upon. So mark your boundaries and try to desilt, because many of the places we have dumped debris and all this, the volume has gone down. So we increase the volume by desilting it. We remove the encroachments which are in these water bodies so that the water can be stored there. We also remove the encroachments on the canals and channels which bring water to the water body. If this is done, The water which is coming up from when the rain comes, we can store this water here. Another important thing is the going for a rooftop rainwater harvesting structures. Now, most of the buildings, in the country, do not have adequate potential to store the rainwater falling on the roof. So, what we are telling is, particularly focusing on government institutions like schools, Anganwadi centers, the PSCs, then government office buildings, because they have to be a role model for the private buildings, and all the private institutions, colleges, schools, private technical institutions, private education institutions, all of them can be nudged to take to make rainwater harvesting structures, rooftop rainwater harvesting structures, collect the water, and bringing them to the ground and store it in the ground below and an aquifer. So that will also increase the water table. So using rooftop rainwater harvesting structures, reviving the ponds and desilting the ponds and desilting the tanks. There are, as I said, traditional water bodies like step wells, bavis, and bores all were there. So we and religious temples. Most of India, a lot of temples have there. Almost all the temples have tanks associated. So religious ponds, all these can be revived and kept ready to collect the water.
You just heard Mission Director of National Water Mission discussing the need for water conservation and how an individual at their level can help in water conservation. We should not underestimate water management because we surely have a responsibility to leave our future generations a planet that is healthy and habitable by all species. We will be back with more information. Thanks for watching.